Okay, we're in the book of Revelation, chapter 5. This is going to be probably a two-parter. So we're going to follow up a request that I've had with regard to this book and the seals, the trumpets, and the vials. And these are an integral part of the book of Revelation, and they are incorporated into a period of time. They all happen within a 7-year period of time called the tribulation period. They get progressively worse. Sometimes when they do occur, they show us different things at different times. But we'll get into that as we investigate the seals, the trumpets, and the vial judgments. Now, all of these things are in sevens. The reason being it's something perfect. God has 7 seals, and that is one set, a unity, some things that happen, and that's complete and perfect. And then he sounds the trumpets, and that's complete. And then he pours out the vials of his wrath, and that is complete. But even those do not finish the punishment of God of man on earth. What finishes it is the battle of Armageddon. That is the great and terrible day of the Lord, and that is the worst judgment of all. But these others ain't bad. Many of them are difficult, punitive measures from God in heaven. Now we're starting in Revelation chapter 5 because that's where the book of Revelation starts with regard to these things. John is speaking. I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. Now the person on the throne is God the Father. He has the highest throne. He is the supreme or ultimate authority in the universe. The Son sits on his right hand because the Bible says the right hand is the place of power. And you'll note that this book is in his right hand. It's written throughout. Simply put, it's thorough, it's comprehensive, it's complete. But you can't read it all because it's wound up and it's sealed with 7 seals. Strong angel proclaimed with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and loose the seals thereof? No man in heaven and earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon." And John says, "I wept much because of this." So there's a search made of heaven to open this book in the right hand of God the Father. Nobody was found worthy except one person, and of course, in verse number 5, one of the elders said. Now you have to remember that from the first part of the book of Revelation to this point, we're introduced to Command Central. We're introduced to the highest heaven, the highest throne. God the Father is there. And he's got 4 creatures there, that one is like a lion, one is like a calf, one is like a man, and the other is like an eagle. And then round about the throne there are angels, and then in a circular fashion there, more or less a horseshoe fashion, you've got these 24 elders. There's a lot of activity going on up there. Now all of a sudden we are found looking at the right hand of the Father in this 7-sealed book. So one of the elders, is one of the 24, said, "Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed to open the book and loose the 7 seals thereof." And of course, this is the Lord Jesus Christ. He is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He is the Lamb for sinners slain. And so he comes and takes the book. So that brings us now down to chapter 6. And verse number 1. "And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, a noise of thunder. Now one of the 4 beasts saying," now the first 4 seals, it's interesting, is introduced by one of the 4 beasts in number: the lion, the calf, the man, and the eagle. And so here is the lion beast speaking. And of course, what books of the Bible do these four coordinate with? The lion, Matthew, he's king of the Jews. Mark, he is the servant, lowly servant. There's the calf or the ox. Luke presents him as man, and so you've got the beast there that looks like a man. And then John presents him as God, and so he's looks like an eagle, flying high over all the earth. So this first beast said, "Come and see." So when he opens the first seal, this starts it all. Now, in our opinion, this first seal is opened before the tribulation period starts. However, it's all part of that period of time known as the Day of the Lord, and where things begin to happen to set up the stage of the tribulation. So I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So Jesus Christ opens the seal that introduces Antichrist. Now this is very important with regard to the rapture, because Paul says we are taken up before Antichrist is revealed. And it's Jesus Christ himself who holds the power to keep him concealed until the first seal is open. And he comes forth mimicking Jesus Christ. And we saw this already with Sagittarius. Remember the one of the signs of the zodiac? Sagittarius is the man riding on the horse. And he comes riding on a white horse. And he presents himself with the bow, and he goes forth conquering. All right, when Jesus Christ comes back at the end of this book in Revelation 19, how does he appear? Riding on a white horse, and so forth, coming back to conquer. And so the very first seal is important because this reveals Antichrist to the world. The church is raptured out beforehand, and now the world sees this man. And what does he do? He rises to power, and he begins going forth conquering and to conquer. Now you'll remember that he rides on a platform of peace. One of the ways that he does it is he just simply conquers the nation, and brings it on into his empire, and says, okay, we're going to have world peace. That's all part of it. All right, now you come down to the verse number 3. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, this is the calf, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red. Now, each of these horses is significant. The white horse presents Antichrist in righteousness. I mean, that's what he is, an Antichrist. Preachers have preached him as one who is mean and wicked and vile and so forth. And of course, that's all true, except he presents himself as an angel of light. He presents himself as one who is righteous. You want to know why there's all this prayer in public and all this publication of the Ten Commandments and so forth? Because that type of thinking is going to begin to take over. The Lord's Prayer and the Ten Commandments are part of Israel's program. And that's what he wants. He wants to bring in Israel's kingdom with himself as the Messiah. And all of this is beginning to prepare the world for a reign of righteousness wherein he's going to take over. So, now this second thing is the red horse. And power was given to him thereon to take peace from the earth. Now, the reason that this happens is to cause Antichrist just a little bit of struggle. Instead of him coming with the power of Satan, he just doesn't automatically take over. He's going to have to fight for it. And if you go back to the book of Daniel, which we have done time and again, the king of the north comes down, the kings of the east come over, the king of the south, the Pan-Arabic bloc. He's got to fight for it. He finally does unify the world, but not before he battles with all of these people. There was given unto him a great sword. Now that lets us know, though, beforehand, what is the cry today? What are men trying to bring in today in this world? a reign of peace and righteousness. That's why we've got all these treaties. That's why we're disarming. We heard on the news today another missile silo was say because we want to disarm, show everybody that we're not for war. We'll just not prepare for it, and that's going to bring in peace. It's nonsense. This tells me that they tried. They make an attempt, but the second seal takes peace from the earth so that all hell breaks loose. All right? Comes then to the third seal. Now, here you have the man presented with the third beast. Come and see. Now, the reason that it is a man here is because human problems are going to occur. What are the human problems? I saw a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Now, today we're still riding the wave of a good economy here in the United States of America. But this lets us know that there's going to be global recession and depression. He's got a scale in his hands, and note what he does. Heard the voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny. Now, that's all the farther we need to go, because a penny is a day's wages, and a measure of wheat is a day's supply of food. So you work one day for a day's supply of food. That's how much it costs. So he's got these balances in his hand, and there's global depression. There's a food shortage. There's going to be rationing of it undoubtedly in many places on the earth. And so here you have a human economy that is going to be decimated as these things, Jesus called them the beginning of sorrows, as these things begin to happen. Okay, come down here to the seventh one. Verse number 7, to the fourth seal, and the fourth beast. Now, the fourth beast is the eagle, and he's presented as God. He typifies God. And, of course, God has the power to take life. And so I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him. And all power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth. Now, note this. We constantly hear the liberal theologians say, well, God is a loving God. He's not going to hurt. Don't you worry about a thing. I heard the other day one person had told me that no matter what you do, God is still going to love you. Well, of course, you bite your tongue because you want to respond, and you say, yes, that's true. But if you reject his son, he's going to judge you in hell. He still cares about you, but you are going to go to a devil's hell and burn forever. And God is not going to forgive you, and his love is not going to conquer that error in your life. So here's over a fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, and the beasts of the earth. There's famine, there's pestilence, and here's where nation rises against nation, and so forth. So those are the first four seals, and it begins the tribulation period. It sets it up with the revelation of Antichrist and begins to set world conditions for the reception of Antichrist. Now, the reason that I say this is, what's the mark of the beast? But to help bring an end to these first four seals. You see, he's going to conquer. He's going to try to bring about world peace. The mark of the beast is so you can buy and sell. Everybody's going to have enough. And it's going to give you instant medical attention and the like. They're going to try to overcome the first four seals. That's the mark of the beast. Now, we don't have the four creatures introducing anymore. Jesus opened the fifth seal. Now remember, whenever I said sometimes these seals they don't do anything on the earth. They actually reveal or unveil something that's happening. It says, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. Do you remember Jesus saying to the disciples, ye shall be hated of all nations before I come. You're going to be hated. Everywhere you have been dispersed to, you're going to be hated. And that's this. Especially believing Jews who are trying to carry out the Great Commission. You wipe them out. And that's what they try to do. However, we know that this is early on in the tribulation period because, note verse 10. How long, O Lord, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? I mean, we're martyred, and he's going to let them know, okay, look, you've been martyred early on, but there are others that are going to follow suit. White robes were given every one of them. It was said that they should rest for yet a little season until their fellow servants and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So martyrdom is prevalent throughout the entire tribulation period. People who believe in Christ and try to fulfill the Great Commission for Israel are going to be captured and killed. Many of them, not all of them. So that lets us know of something that happens in the beginning, but then all the way through until the end, because they will not be avenged until the end. This happens early on. All right, now verse number 12. This is the sixth seal. And the sixth seal is going to be opened, says verse number 12, and there's a great earthquake. Now the problem with the sixth seal is that it does not happen in the first 3.5 years. And as a matter of fact, in our opinion, it doesn't happen in the second 3.5 years. The seal is opened here during that time, but it is a preview, if you will, of something that happens when. When does the sun become black? The moon become as blood, the stars of heaven fall, and so forth. When, verse 14, when does heaven depart as a scroll and every mountain move? When do the kings of the earth cry? Verse 17, hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne. Verse 16, from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath shall come. That's Armageddon, you see. Remember, Jesus said immediately following the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will give it light, the stars will fall from heaven, and then they'll see the sign of the coming of the Son of Man. And then all the tribes of the earth are going to mourn, and so forth. So this seal here, though it's opened early on as the book of Revelation progresses, and in keeping with the seven seals, it lets us know of something that's going to happen in the end, just like the fifth seal. Fifth seal is open. It lets us know of something that happens early on, all the way through to the end. The sixth seal lets us know something that happens literally after the end of the tribulation, during one of the 75 days of Daniel. Okay, so let's come all the way down here to chapter 8. Well, no, we don't want to do that. Let's note what happens in between here. Part of the sixth seal also includes a couple of things that happen during the tribulation period and then after. What happens during the first half of the tribulation period as in conjunction with this sixth seal? After these things, now we have a chapter break, but literally it doesn't break in the Greek text. It follows right along. We've got it goes from chapter 7, so you think, well, that stops right there. No, it goes on. And after these things, and the same thing happens in verse number 9 of chapter 7. And after this I beheld. That is all incorporated into that sixth seal. It opens and you see this, and then you see this, and then you see this before it closes back up again. So the three things you see is the battle of Armageddon here in these verses. And then you see four angels standing on the four corners of the earth to do what? Verse number 3. Hurt not the earth or the sea or the trees till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. So the 144,000 are sealed. The sixth seal lets us know how many are going to be sealed in the first half of the tribulation period. Now you'll remember that these guys are special. They're certified stock. They're of a certain tribe. And that they get raptured out in the midst of the tribulation. They're not the church. If they were part of the church, would they be qualified to be one of the 144,000? No. Why? There is neither Jew nor Gentile as part of the church. You have to be a Jew of this tribe and pretty much purebred, because they are going to get married when the kingdom starts. and begin the process of multiplying Israel. You're neither married nor given in marriage in a resurrection body, so these guys don't have resurrection bodies. They have physical bodies and they're brought back. Okay? One more thing happens from verse 9 on to the end. Lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and so forth, clothed in white robes. And he asked a question, verse 13. What are these arrayed in white robes? Whence came they? Verse 14 gives the answer. They came out of great tribulation. So here we have more or less a parallel between the first four here. We have this happening, this happening, this happening, this happening, then the fifth one opening up, and it shows something that happens here during the first half, and then something that's going to happen at the end. And this is what happens at the end as well. They came out of great tribulation, which means they were martyred from the middle point of the tribulation period on to the end. That's when these were killed. These came out of great tribulation. And they're somewhat different than the fifth seal here. In the fifth seal, it's talking about, notice verse 11, till their fellow servants and their brethren. Now, these are Jews. These are Jewish martyrs. Here in chapter 7, it's a great multitude of all, verse number 9, of all nations, kindreds, people, and tongues. So, in the fifth seal, you mainly have Jews. In the sixth seal, you have here those of all nations. All right, let's come to the seventh seal. Chapter 8. Now, there have been some commentators that have gone out on a limb on this and said that they don't believe that there are any women in heaven until after the opening of the seventh seal, or the blowing of the first trumpet. And the reason why, it says here in verse 1, and he opened the seventh seal, and there was silence in heaven for the space of half an hour. Now, I did not say that. I said there were some commentators that said that. I didn't say I agreed with them. Okay, well, yeah, boo on those commentators. Never again will I quote from those guys, you betcha. That's right. Because I thought y'all were, sort of dozing and all this talk about seals and the like. That's anyway. The seventh seal, something strange does happen. There is silence, and it's odd that it gives this time, a half an hour, but it's there, and we believe it. One of the reasons that it is there, that there's total silence, is because in a little bit you are going to have the blasts of 7 trumpets. And nothing's going to shock you to your senses more if you get lulled to sleep with this silence. Then all of a sudden there are these blasts from the trumpets. And the blasts from the trumpets begin a process of the increasing intensity of the wrath of God. So, verse number 2. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. All right? And verse number 6. The other verses here don't pertain to what we're trying to do, so we're going to skip them and go to verse 6. The 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound. God always does that. There's a stark contrast. Silence, and all of a sudden, the first angel sounded. Now, you'll note that there's a similarity here to what happened in one of the plagues in Egypt. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. Now, the mingling with blood part, I've often wondered, now how in the world does God do this? I understand the hail and the fire, and that happened with Egypt, but here's something else, mingled with blood. Now, it doesn't specify. Does it mean that they killed people and their blood spilled out and it all mingled together? Or did he send blood from heaven? If so, whose blood was it? And so forth. We're not exactly sure. But what we are sure of is that now God is beginning to send things upon the earth from him. That are going to cause catastrophe. Now, he's already done this, but part of the seal judgments has already been incorporated in a system. I mean, we've had people like the White Horse before, Hitler and others that have tried to take control. We've had people like the Red Horse that took war. They were always fighting. We've had instances like the Black Horse. Right now, you go to Africa and those countries like Ethiopia and others where people are starving. We have plagues in Africa. We've had the Pale Horse, but nothing to be compared with what God sends. But now, these are even more intense. So, note what happens. They were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees were burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. Now, just a little lesson here on the need for trees and grass. What takes our carbon dioxide, transforms it to oxygen, and so forth. And that's what's happening here. Forget your rainforest, 1/3 of the trees are gone and all green grass. Now that doesn't mean it's gone forever. It will grow back. But the trees, of course, that are gone will never grow back. They will be gone for good, till the end. Just not enough time to grow them. So God is specifically attacking nature and the very systems of nature that sustain the life of man on earth. All right? Secondly, second angel sounded, as it were, a great mountain burning with fire cast into the sea. Now, this is another one of those things where, okay, now is this an asteroid? Or is it a volcano? Not exactly sure, it doesn't specify. What we do know, though, whichever it is, that it is brought up and cast down into the sea. And note, just like a third part of the trees were burned up, now you've got a third part of the sea becoming blood. A lot of life in the sea, and it kills this life. There is an attack on Earth's oceans. The third part of the creatures which were in the sea had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. So commerce is hindered, fishing is hindered, and life in the sea that the environmentalists are trying to protect. A third of it is gone. So that happens with the second trumpet. Okay, verse number 10. Here's the third trumpet. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven. Now, this we are sure is an asteroid or a giant meteor of some sort, burning as it were a lamp. It fell upon the third part of the rivers and the fountains of waters. Now, note what we've done here. We've attacked the trees and the grass, life-sustaining. We've attacked the oceans, life-sustaining. And now we're attacking that salt water. Man cannot drink salt water. But what is this? Fresh water. This meteor comes down on fresh water, upon the rivers and the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is wormwood. Wormwood means bitter or toxic. And a third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter or toxic. So God, with these trumpet judgments, has upped the ante, as it were. He has increased the intensity of man. Some of these things through their natural systems, their economy, and so forth. But now he's attacking what sustains life. And it indeed is not a pretty picture. All right? Verse number 12. We've got the fourth trumpet. Now, remember, as we're reading this, that During the course of the tribulation period, certain things happen with the sun, moon, and stars. It's not till you get the end that they pull the plug and throw the switch and their lights go out. But here, note, in each one of these, with the trumpets, you've got 1/3. Every time it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So you get the fourth here, and note what it says. A third part of the sun was smitten. Now, this could be for two reasons. One, either the God turns the burner down, or because of the burning mountain and because of the burning star that fell into the waters, threw up ash into the atmosphere, and it gave diminished a third part of the heat and the light of the sun. Because obviously, if you've got a third part of the sun diminished, then it's to look at the moon and the stars as well. The very same thing is going to happen because we're looking up through the atmosphere. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part, and the night likewise. Evidently, it was some form of pollution in the atmosphere that reduced the light a third. Okay, now we have another one of these parenthetical things. And I beheld and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe. Now, how many trumpets have we had thus far? 4 trumpets. How many woes have we just had? 3. If it weren't bad enough that these trumpets all have a judgment associated with them, there is a woe attached now to each of these last 3 trumpets. Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpets of the 3 angels which are yet to sound. You talk about things going from bad to worse real fast. This is what's happening. A woe now is attached to the sounding of the trumpet. The judgment's going to be bad, but it's going to be worse than just simply bad, because now we've got a woe. Now, what could be worse than all these things happening? The 5th angel sounded, and a star fell from heaven to the earth. And this star was obviously an angel, because to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And you're familiar with our studies that angels are called stars. They live among the stars, they look like stars, and so forth. Now, what happened here, we'll take the time to read it because I had a question regarding it. What happened here is really unusual. To me, it is the opening of the abyss where the angels of Noah's day, are loosed on the earth for a short time. Now, remember, they've been in the bottomless pit for a long time, and these were some mean dudes. So, let's read and comment. He opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit. Other than that, I cannot explain how they got here. They are not demons, they're angels. They have an angel over them who was down there with them. Other than that, I don't know how else they could have gotten there. The smoke of a great furnace. The sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So here's more pollution. There came out smoke, locusts upon the earth. Now, the reason that they are called locusts is not because they were locusts, but because they flew in hordes as locusts. And evidently there were millions of them on earth at the time in Noah's day. And so the locust that was upon earth, it was given to them power, scorpions on the earth, and so forth. And it was commanded they wouldn't hurt the grass or any green thing, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Now they had a mission. They were told not to do any harm to the environment. This time they were after men. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he strikes. And in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it. Desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Now, what is so bad about this? It would be easier to die than suffer through their sting. That's what was so bad. They talk about a woe to see one of these creatures, but then to be stung and then to suffer so badly you wish you were dead and you couldn't die. That was part of the woe. That's part of the curse. Whatever this was a very, very harmful substance, but they could not, they would seek death. Kill me, go ahead, plunge it. No, it's not going to happen. So then it goes on to tell what they were, gives the description of them. Power was given, last part of verse 10, to hurt men 5 months. One good thing, probably a reprieve for Christmas, I guess, I don't know. They had a king over them, which was the angel of the bottomless pit. Now note, he was an angel. If he was an angel, he is the fourth angel named in Scripture. Lucifer, Michael, Gabriel, and this guy's name is Abaddon or Apollyon, the destroyer. And we call these four the Morning Star Quartet because they evidently, being the power angels over the entire angelic host and domain, they evidently sang at the founding of the earth way back when. But Abaddon, after Lucifer revolted and Adam sinned, Abaddon brought a contingent of angels, evidently millions of them, down to earth to, now remember our study Sunday night, to stand guard. And it's what it says, it's supposed to garrison, to stand guard. There was an army of angels against the tree of life. So men could not get in there in their sinful state, live forever without trusting Christ as Savior or going through the process. Now let's continue on here. One woe is past, and behold, thereafter 2 woes more. There's the good news and the bad news. One is down, but 2 more to go. The 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar which is before God. Now I'm going to come to a point here. If you listen to men like Jack Van Impe and some other prophetic teachers, they always teach that this is in association with the kings of the east coming from the east to Israel in order to try to whip Antichrist. It's not true. The only common denominator is the Euphrates River. But the Euphrates River is not dried up. Saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Now, we have the frog demons coming up here in Revelation chapter 16. They come out of the mouth of the beast and the false prophet and of the dragon. But here we have 4 angels that were obviously chained. By the way, this means they're chained there now. You can ride in the Euphrates River, and you're going to ride over them someplace in this river. Go swimming. You're swimming with 4 chained angels. They're fallen angels. They are mean dudes, and why they were not cast into the bottomless pit, I do not know, except these dudes were placed in the great river Euphrates. It says in verse 14, and when they were loosed, they were prepared. These are special angels so that they could slay the third part of men. Now, here's the connection. Abaddon brings up this horde, and these 4 angels, signifying the 4 parts of the earth, divide them up into 4 quadrants. And they go throughout the earth to kill, to sting these men and evidently then bring them to their death. The number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. This is the number of those that came out like locusts in verse number 3 of this chapter. It is not the number of the kings of the east and their armies. It is the number of the hordes of angels that came from the bottomless pit, over which these guys take charge. And so it talks about them again. By these were the third part of men killed by fire and smoke and brimstone which issued out of their mouth. There's a connection there between these angels out of the bottomless pit and those four angels which divvied up the earth to go around and kill men. Verse number 20. The rest of the men which were not killed of these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands. They still wanted to believe in idols. Now, what is the point here? The point here is that it wouldn't take me all that much to be convinced to repent of these things and believe. And yet these things are happening with the fifth and the sixth angels, and there's a connection here. There's a correlation here between the two, yet they're still not convinced. Okay. Let's come now to the seventh trumpet, chapter 10, verse 7. Let's back up to verse number 5. The angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted his hand to heaven and swore by him that lived forever, who created heaven, the things therein, the earth, the things therein, the sea, and so forth, that there should be time no longer. Now, some have taken this to mean that God dispenses with time at this point, but it doesn't mean that at all. It means that there should not be a delay of time any longer. Is time still counted through the tribulation period? The answer to that is absolutely. It's 7 years, 3.5, 75 days afterwards, and so forth. A year of record. Time is still counted. So what does this mean? It means a delay of time no longer. In other words, God is going to begin pressing the matter even harder from this point on. Just like Lucifer in chapter 12. He comes down. It's in the midst of the week. He realizes his time is short. He's going to take the ball to the enemy. He's going to begin pushing the issue in the matter. And so this angel is saying, this is what's going to happen. In the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he has declared to his servants, the prophets. This does not have anything to do with the mystery given to the Apostle Paul. It has to do with how the age is going to end. And that's what John is telling us here. The mystery of God are those things associated of how God is going to bring this to an end and a finality and so forth. And that's what he's telling us. That's what Revelation is about. All right? So let's come to chapter 11 and verse number 15. And we just have a short time here, but we'll at least get this far. The seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven, saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of the Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Now remember, this is in relation to there should be a delay of time no longer. The mystery of God's going to be completed. And so when the seventh angel sounds, that's what they said would be done. It says, here it comes, the kingdom is coming. The 24 elders which sat before God on their seats fell upon their faces and worshiped God. And by the way, these 24 elders, we're not studying them. It might be good to mention just who in the world they might be. And remember, we're looking at a picture. It is a prophecy of something that's happening in the future, and so forth. This is all Israel's program. We have creatures mentioned, we have angels mentioned, and 24 elders. How many tribes are mentioned in the New Jerusalem? 12. How many apostles are mentioned at each of the gates? 12. And 12 and 12 make, how many elders are there? 24 elders. And I believe that it is a combination of the two. But that's for a future study as yet. There are 12 tribes, 12 apostles. The tribes are on the New Jerusalem. The apostles are on the New Jerusalem. They are the ruling party of the New Jerusalem with the elders and so forth. That's what they're called. And they're associated there. But we'll look at that later on. But that is very definitely a potential of who these 12 elders are that are seen before the throne of God. And by the way, all 24 will be in heaven by the time Jesus Christ takes a seven-sealed book and opens the seven seals. They'll all be there. John wasn't there. He was the one seeing the revelation. However, he will be there at the time. He was just seeing a foreview of it. So what does he do? Verse number 18. The nations were angry. Thy wrath is come. The time of the dead that they should be judged. See, it's pushing toward the end now.